Hold on to your seats because the tea is hotter than ever. KirkKing, yes, the KirkKing who's been quietly stewing behind closed doors while reality cameras rolled and social media whispered, just dropped a bombshell. He's finally happy. But before you roll your eyes at another post-divorce glow-up, let's get one thing straight. This isn't your typical Instagram-worthy "I'm thriving, look at me" moment. No, ladies and gentlemen. This is survival straight from the battlefield of his own life. And then there's QuadWebb. Oh, you thought she'd stay silent? Think again. Sources claim she's admitting something she's never said publicly. Something that might just rewrite everything we thought we knew about their power struggle. Could it be regret? Could it be betrayal? Or is it that classic "I can't believe I underestimated him" vibe? Fans are flooding Twitter, clips are being rewatched, GIFs are being created. And let's be honest, who doesn't love a little high-stakes drama mixed with emotional resurrection? Today, we're peeling back every layer of this explosive saga: hidden motives, whispered secrets, and the shocking truths both Kirk and Quad have been keeping from us. Because if you thought reality TV was messy before, honey, you haven't seen this chaos. KirkKing's declaration of happiness after his divorce isn't just a casual update, it's the emotional earthquake. No. Bodies saw coming. For years, insiders have whispered about the tensions bubbling behind closed doors, a delicate web of control, critique, and quiet humiliation that seemed ordinary on the surface but was slowly eroding his spirit. Kirk, who had always been the steady, composed figure on social media and reality appearances, was living a double life of compliance and suppression. Every smile captured on camera, every laugh in interviews had been meticulously calculated to hide exhaustion, anxiety, and the subtle weight of emotional captivity. Observers now wonder, how much did he compromise to keep the peace? And how many moments of his own identity did he quietly sacrifice? QuadWebb, often portrayed as the assertive, ambitious partner in their interactions, has always commanded attention. But sources close to the couple claim that her presence wasn't just influential, it was dominating. During their marriage, the power dynamics were reportedly skewed. Kirk, despite his calm demeanor, why felt like a background actor in a story that should have been his own. He made decisions under constant scrutiny, with little room for negotiation, often forced to justify choices that should have been private and unquestioned. Family pressures and social expectations layered on top of each other, compounding the mental strain. This wasn't merely a case of spousal disagreements, it was a multi-layered maze of control, silent criticism, and public accountability, all of which chipped away at Kirk's autonomy. The public has long been captivated by Kirk's appearances, his poise, his wit, his occasionally sharp commentary, but very few noticed the cracks beneath. Those who did now revisit clips with a new lens. One particularly revealing moment occurred during a group interview where Kirk's usual jovial energy was overshadowed by a fleeting, almost imperceptible hesitation before responding to a pointed question about family commitments. Viewers initially laughed it off, chalking it up to nerves or the quirks of reality TV timing. But insiders now interpret those micro-expressions as signs of his internal struggle, a man consistently deferring his needs and voice to accommodate the expectations of others. The curated image of harmony was, in fact, a facade carefully maintained to prevent confrontation, public scrutiny, or even a whisper of dissent. Sources reveal that Kirk's compliance wasn't limited to personal choices. Reports suggest he routinely suppressed professional ambitions and personal desires to maintain the perceived equilibrium of the household. Opportunities that might have brought him recognition or growth were reportedly dismissed, delayed, or quietly abandoned under the weight of implicit expectations. Even casual decisions, like social outings or weekend plans, were allegedly examined and subtly manipulated by the environment he lived in. Every action became a negotiation of survival rather than a pursuit of fulfillment. For years, those around him allegedly took his cooperation for granted, never recognizing that the composed exterior masked an interior battleground of stress, anxiety, and quiet resentment. The divorce process itself, according to sources, magnified these pressures to an almost unbearable level. Legal proceedings are often portrayed as administrative necessities, but in Kirk's case, they reportedly became psychological tests of endurance. Lawyers, family mediators, and social commentators all allegedly added layers of evaluation, probing his worth, intentions, and emotional resilience. Every clause, every custody discussion, every public comment became an arena for scrutiny, pushing Kirk to confront not only the dissolution of a marriage, but the very essence of his self-worth. Anonymous insiders claimed that these proceedings revealed patterns long suppressed, subtle manipulations, indirect criticisms, and the quiet power plays that had characterized the relationship for years. Kirk's moment of liberation, the now famous "I Can Breathe" declaration, is reportedly the culmination of years of silent endurance. Far from a simple expression of relief, insiders describe it as a statement of reclamation. In the wake of the divorce, he reportedly focused on rebuilding his identity, setting boundaries, and prioritizing mental peace above all else. Friends describe a visible transformation. Kirk, once guarded and restrained, is now more expressive, more intentional, and more present. The social media reaction was immediate. Fans celebrated, speculated, and dissected every word, clip, and photograph. Memes circulated, tweets went viral, and a new narrative emerged. KirkKing is no longer the background character. He is, finally, the protagonist of his own life. QuadWebb's response, or rather, her carefully curated silence, has fueled the fire of speculation. Analysts and fans alike have questioned whether her quietude reflects strategy, regret, or simply an unwillingness to engage in the public dissection of private matters. The lack of overt commentary has created a vacuum filled with conjecture. Some suggest that this silence signals acknowledgement of missteps or reconsideration of past actions, while others see it as a tactical retreat, choosing to let Kirk's newfound confidence dominate the narrative. Regardless, the interplay between Kirk's openness and Quad's silence has ignited discussions across forums. From casual fan boards to social media threads that dissect reality TV psychology with almost scholarly intensity. Inside sources paint a vivid picture of Kirk's post-divorce approach. Unlike many who rush to redefine themselves publicly, he is reportedly taking measured steps. His interactions with his children are now described as grounding and intentional. Every outing, every shared moment is framed not for show, but as an authentic attempt to rebuild relational stability. This contrasts sharply with previous depictions of family life, where sources claim that conflict, expectation management, and public image dominated. The reconstructed daily rhythm has reportedly shifted Kirk from reactive to proactive, from surviving to thriving. Observers note that this pivot is not merely emotional, it carries practical implications for his professional and personal trajectory. Fans revisiting past interviews and appearances have begun to detect a subtle but consistent pattern. Small gestures, brief pauses, and restrained comments that once seemed inconsequential are now read as indicators of deeper tension. Clips showing Kirk laughing politely at remarks that seemed slightly dismissive are now interpreted as microcosms of a larger pattern of emotional suppression. Every public smile, every carefully modulated tone is being recontextualized through the lens of his post-divorce revelations. Social media discussions highlight a collective reevaluation. Viewers are asking whether the realities of emotional control can go unnoticed when performance and composure mask internal struggle. Sources close to Kirk emphasize that his story is not about revenge or scandal for the sake of spectacle. Unlike many televised confrontations, his narrative reportedly centers on survival and self-reclamation. He reportedly avoids blame, choosing instead to highlight the dynamics that led to personal suppression and eventual liberation by framing his experience in terms of endurance, mental health, and the quiet reclamation of autonomy, Kirk's public image is being transformed from that of a compliant figure to a symbol of measured resilience. Commentators suggest that this approach is disarming yet compelling, leaving audiences intrigued, reflective, and, in some cases, inspired, while the public marvels at his newfound confidence. Insiders claimed that the path was neither smooth nor instantaneous. Kirk's process reportedly involved confronting uncomfortable truths about the marriage, recognizing patterns of coercion and control, and seeking counsel to navigate the emotional fallout. Each step toward freedom required not only reflection, but deliberate action, setting boundaries, asserting preferences, and redefining priorities. Observers note that the transformation is holistic, extending from personal identity to parental engagement to professional focus. The narrative emerging is one of gradual, deliberate rebuilding rather than impulsive or reactionary behavior. And yet, for all the introspection, the drama hasn't disappeared entirely. Anonymous sources hint at lingering complexities: public perception, media framing, and the ever-present social lens remain. Every appearance, every comment, every post on social platforms now carries amplified significance. Fans and critics alike are analyzing nuances, from Kirk's wardrobe choices to his social media cadence, as potential indicators of recovery or subtle statements of autonomy. In this environment, even the act of living authentically becomes a form of commentary. Blurring the lines between personal liberation and public performance, the stakes are further intensified by the historical context of their relationship. Past incidents, such as disagreements aired on social media, subtle public critiques, and behind-the-scenes manipulations, now form a backdrop against which Kirk's current statements are measured. Observers suggest that these flashpoints, previously seen as isolated or trivial, are now recognized as patterns, evidence of an environment that systematically undermined Kirk's autonomy. The narrative arc, reconstructed in retrospect, frames the divorce not simply as the end of a partnership, but as the pivotal turning point in a prolonged struggle for self-determination. By the time Kirk announced his happiness, social media had already erupted. Fans dissected interviews, analyzed captions, and debated the implications of his newfound peace. The conversation is no longer just about a divorce. It has evolved into a discussion of emotional sovereignty, resilience in the face of subtle coercion, and the societal pressures that can suppress individual agency. Memes, think pieces, and commentary threads proliferated, each interpreting the signals in slightly different ways, but collectively amplifying the narrative of Kirk's survival and transformation. The story is not simply about a marriage that ended, it's about a man reclaiming agency after years of emotional negotiation, about the quiet reclamation of identity in the shadows of scrutiny, and about the way society consumes and interprets these transformations. KirkKing's journey, as reported by insiders and interpreted by fans, is only beginning to unfold, and the ripple effects of his liberation promise to keep audiences captivated for weeks, months, and perhaps even years to come. As KirkKing's voice echoes across social media, claiming his freedom and newfound happiness, the web of whispers surrounding him and QuadWebb thickens. Sources allege that the layers of control during their marriage were far more intricate than the casual observer could imagine. This wasn't just about who made what decision, it was about power, perception, and presence. Kirk's every action, whether mundane or monumental, reportedly came under constant scrutiny. Even family gatherings, once assumed to be simple celebrations, were allegedly arenas of subtle critique, where opinions were masked as guidance but functioned as control. Insiders claim that this constant evaluation left Kirk perpetually second-guessing, cautious, and, at times, resigned to the fact that his personal agency was secondary to the expectations of others. QuadWebb, according to anonymous insiders, was not merely assertive. She allegedly maintained a dominion over public perception, controlling the narrative both on camera and off. While her social media posts exuded confidence and charm, Sources suggest a different reality behind closed doors, a carefully orchestrated environment where Kirk's contributions and feelings were minimized. One source close to the situation claims it wasn't mean-spirited necessarily, but it was strategic. Kirk's opinions were considered, but never prioritized. It was like watching someone else's script unfold while pretending you had lines, whether true or exaggerated. These claims have ignited intense debate online. Fans are now dissecting old footage, noticing pauses, smirks, and nonverbal cues that, in hindsight, suggest Kirk may have been negotiating his own expression under duress. And then, there are the reports alleged leaks from confidential insiders, emails, and snippets from private conversations that, until now, were buried beneath layers of PR gloss. According to one anonymous insider, Quad reportedly questioned Kirk's every decision, sometimes publicly, sometimes subtly, leaving him in a state of perpetual anxiety. You could see it in the way he responded to even simple questions, the source revealed. Every comment was measured, every smile carefully calculated. He wasn't defiant. He was surviving. Fans immediately ran with the narrative, and social media exploded with memes highlighting the background man finally taking the spotlight trope. The blend of sympathy, schadenfreude, and intrigue created a viral frenzy that few could have predicted. Reports also detail lavish spending habits that allegedly added fuel to the underlying tensions. Sources claim that Quad maintained a high-profile lifestyle with costly trips, luxury items, and high-end events, often publicly shared in ways that amplified Kirk's supposed invisibility. One insider described an extravagant getaway that reportedly left Kirk marginalized in decision-making. He was there smiling for the cameras, but every itinerary, every activity was orchestrated. He was present in body, absent in authority. Social media users immediately latched onto this narrative, with threads dissecting every Instagram story, TikTok snippet, and captioned photograph. Observers debated whether these displays were innocent fun, a reflection of misaligned priorities, or another layer of subtle dominance. Meanwhile, QuadWebb's own statements, carefully measured and cryptic, have added fuel to the speculation fire. In a recent interview, she reportedly admitted, "There are things I regret, choices I didn't fully consider." The vagueness of the comment sent fans into overdrive. What exactly did she mean? Was this a rare admission of error, a reflection on her approach to the relationship, or merely strategic ambiguity? Every tweet, comment, and reaction was dissected, and the story became a social media chessboard of interpretations. One particularly popular thread claimed Kirk finally breathed and Quad finally admitted something. Coincidence? I think not. The viral energy only amplified as public curiosity peaked, with hashtags trending for hours. The emotional toll on Kirk reportedly went beyond mere public perception. Sources claim his mental and physical health were subtly affected, the consequences of years of suppressed autonomy and constant stress. Sleep patterns, eating habits, and energy levels were all allegedly influenced by the ongoing strain of maintaining appearances while quietly negotiating personal freedom. Friends who spoke off the record describe a man who was constantly assessing the environment, predicting reactions, and carefully modulating his behavior to avoid confrontation. He wasn't just trying to be liked, one friend claimed. He was trying to survive emotionally. It's this invisible struggle that makes his current declaration of happiness so striking. The public sees a calm, composed, smiling Kirk, but insiders emphasize that this is the culmination of a long, deliberate process of recovery and self-reclamation. In addition to the personal drama, the legal proceedings surrounding the divorce reportedly brought their own layer of complexity. Sources allege a mixture of intense negotiations, custody discussions, and financial deliberations that required Kirk to assert himself in ways he hadn't before. Every hearing was a test, an insider claimed. It wasn't just about assets or parenting schedules. It was about respect, authority, and ensuring his voice finally mattered. The contrast between past compliance and present assertiveness has been noted by observers, with social media users commenting on his confident posture, clear statements, and deliberate tone during interviews and court-adjacent appearances. This apparent transformation has fueled speculation. Was Kirk holding back for years, or was this finally his moment to reclaim narrative control? Public reaction, as usual, has been a fascinating mix of support, ridicule, and analysis. Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube comment sections have become arenas for dissecting every detail. Some fans celebrate the resilience narrative, applauding Kirk's apparent mental recovery and prioritization of children. Others speculate on hidden tensions, weighing whether Quad's admission of regret is a step toward reconciliation, acknowledgement, or simply a public relations maneuver. Influencers and commentators have joined the discourse, some offering deep-dive analyses of past interviews, old footage, and even wardrobe choices to infer psychological patterns. Every post, every reaction, every theory contributes to the ever-expanding narrative of Kirk and Quad's saga. Leaked reports have even gone further, alleging subtle financial discrepancies during the marriage that sparked internal debates and tensions. While no official statements confirm these claims, anonymous sources suggest that disagreements over spending priorities, lifestyle decisions, and investment approaches may have exacerbated underlying emotional strain. It wasn't about money, one source explained. It was about control. Who gets to decide? Who gets to lead? Who gets to be heard? That was the real conflict. Social media users immediately latched onto this interpretation, posting charts, timelines, and evidence from past posts to illustrate the alleged imbalance. The frenzy amplified the sense that Kirk's newfound liberation was not only personal, but symbolic of victory over a complex, layered web of relational dynamics. Fans have also speculated on the role of external influences, including family, mutual friends, and professional advisors, in shaping the narrative. According to insiders, certain family members reportedly exerted subtle pressure, creating a layered environment where every action had potential consequences. Friends who spoke anonymously indicated that these pressures forced Kirk to weigh even trivial choices with strategic caution. The layers of influence, often invisible to the public, reportedly magnified the emotional labor of everyday interactions, making the post-divorce declaration of freedom all the more significant. And yet, the most striking element of this unfolding drama isn't the gossip, it's the quiet resilience of KirkKing himself. Sources emphasize that while QuadWebb's admission of regret and social media commentary fuel intrigue, Kirk's narrative is rooted in reflection, recovery, and intentional living. By reframing past compliance as survival, his current assertiveness as autonomy, and his happiness as triumph, Kirk becomes a figure whose journey resonates with anyone navigating complex power dynamics in personal relationships. The interplay between social media spectacle and personal reality creates a fascinating tension, keeping audiences engaged, emotionally invested, and perpetually analyzing the next move. Kirk is no longer merely reacting to past dynamics. He is asserting presence, reclaiming agency, and redefining public perception. Meanwhile, Quad's strategic ambiguity, public reactions, and continued social media engagement ensure that the story remains alive, evolving, and irresistibly viral. Observers are left asking, what's next? Will there be reconciliation, further revelations, or even legal maneuvers that reshape the narrative once again? The answers are unclear, but one thing is certain: the saga is far from over, and the world is watching, dissecting, and waiting for the next explosive revelation. The dust from KirkKing's bold declaration hadn't even settled when the first waves of fallout began to ripple across both public and private spheres. Social media, ever hungry for scandal, exploded with speculation. Analysts and fans dissected every word, every posture, and every smile from recent appearances, claiming that even his casual gestures were subtle digs, statements, or unspoken rebuttals. Kirk's not just happy, one popular commentator tweeted. He's strategic, deliberate, and fully aware of how he's rewriting the narrative. Memes comparing old, restrained Kirk to the new, liberated Kirk went viral almost immediately, trending across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. But this isn't merely an online spectacle, it's a story with real-world implications. And sources indicate that the ripple effect is far more consequential than anyone could have imagined. Insiders allege that the legal fallout from the divorce is still simmering beneath the surface. Sources describe ongoing discussions about custody, financial arrangements, and even subtle negotiations over public representations in media. Allegedly, both sides are engaged in a careful dance, balancing personal interests with the potential for public perception to shift the narrative in unexpected ways. One anonymous insider explained, "Kirk is no longer just defending himself. He's proactively shaping what comes next. He's learned the power of perception, and he's using it to solidify his position." Reports also suggest that some documents, quietly leaked to trusted confidants, reveal negotiations more intense and layered than previously reported, including contingencies that protect Kirk's parental rights and future opportunities. Meanwhile, QuadWebb's position remains a fascinating counterpoint. Sources suggest that her admission of regret, although subtle, has stirred both media and fan speculation about possible further revelations, while she maintains a public silence on certain details. Insiders hint that this may be part of a broader strategy to let Kirk's narrative dominate temporarily before addressing other matters on her own. Fans have been quick to dissect any slight gesture. A caption here, a story post there as potential hints of upcoming commentary or defensive positioning. This delicate interplay between Kirk's assertiveness and Quad's strategic reticence has created a highly charged environment where every move is amplified, scrutinized, and endlessly analyzed. Financial implications are reportedly another layer of the unfolding consequences. Sources claim that certain high-value transactions, investments, and asset allocations during the marriage are under review, with both sides allegedly evaluating their long-term impacts, while no formal audits or legal filings have been publicly confirmed. Insiders speculate that the ongoing discussions could influence not only immediate settlements, but also reputations and social info. Whence, one source remarked, "It's not just about money, it's about control, credibility, and who gets to define the story in the end." Social media commentary has mirrored these speculations, with fans debating who came out ahead, who sacrificed more, and whether the public perceptions of wealth and power align with the reality behind closed doors. In the midst of this fallout, Kirk's focus on his children and personal well-being has been a grounding force. Friends and insiders describe him as intentionally prioritizing stability, consistency, and presence, especially in family interactions. Social media users have noticed subtle but telling differences. Photos and videos show Kirk engaged, attentive, and relaxed in ways that were previously rare. This shift is being framed not only as a personal victory, but as a statement of resilience. A man who endured control, criticism, and emotional suppression, now reclaiming his authority in both personal and public life. Sources emphasize that this deliberate, measured approach amplifies the tension for observers, creating a contrast between public scrutiny and private empowerment that fuels ongoing discussion. Speculation over potential legal ramifications has also intensified. While no formal lawsuits beyond the divorce proceedings have been reported, sources hint at the possibility of further protective measures, custody adjustments, and even strategic legal consultations to anticipate future challenges. Kirk is planning for contingencies, one anonymous insider noted. He's aware that public perception can influence legal outcomes, and he's using his renewed confidence and clarity to ensure his decisions hold weight. The narrative of personal empowerment now intersects with tangible, strategic action, reinforcing the perception that Kirk is not merely reacting, but actively shaping his post-divorce reality. Meanwhile, fans continue to comb through old interviews, social media posts, and video clips highlighting moments that, in hindsight, suggest a pattern of subtle control and strategic compliance. One particularly viral thread juxtaposed Kirk's restrained reactions in earlier footage with his recent confident demeanor, sparking debates about emotional abuse, autonomy, and the invisible pressures that shaped his past behavior. Commentators note that this retrospective analysis magnifies the narrative impact, transforming what might have been dismissed as ordinary behavior into evidence of a more profound struggle for self-determination. The public fascination, fueled by both empathy and entertainment, ensures that every appearance and statement is now scrutinized in the broader context of survival and personal empowerment. The fallout also extends into professional spheres. Sources suggest that Kirk's renewed confidence and assertive public presence could influence partnerships, collaborations, and future media opportunities. Colleagues and industry insiders reportedly view him differently now, not merely as a competent professional, but as someone whose personal transformation lends him a new credibility and authority. While this narrative is speculative, it demonstrates how the intersection of personal drama, public perception, and career strategy can amplify the stakes of emotional and relational developments. Social media discussion mirrors this, with fans theorizing about potential collaborations, endorsements, and media projects that capitalize on Kirk's resurgence. Even the subtleties of daily life are reportedly affected. Friends describe Kirk navigating social interactions, professional meetings, and public appearances with a newfound clarity and intentionality. According to insiders, every decision is now informed by lessons learned from past constraints: how to assert preferences without conflict, how to engage publicly without compromising privacy, and how to maintain emotional equilibrium amidst scrutiny. This strategic awareness, combined with his emphasis on family and self-care, frames Kirk's narrative as both inspirational and cautionary, a story of endurance, personal reclamation, and the ongoing negotiation between private life and public expectation. At the same time, QuadWebb's position continues to provoke discussion. While her public statements remain measured and occasionally cryptic, insiders suggest that her strategic choices reflect a deeper awareness of narrative power. By choosing when to speak and when to remain silent, she reportedly influences the story's trajectory, leaving fans and commentators to interpret gaps, pauses, and subtle gestures. This interplay, insiders note, creates a dynamic tension. Kirk asserts presence and narrative control, while Quad's careful restraint ensures that the public never fully settles on a single interpretation. The result is a continuously evolving spectacle that keeps audiences engaged, guessing, and invested. The emotional resonance of the saga, sources suggest, extends beyond the individuals involved. Fans and observers relate to Kirk's journey in unexpected ways, particularly men and women who have navigated relationships with subtle coercion, high expectations, or emotional suppression. By publicly framing his survival and recovery as deliberate, thoughtful, and resilient, Kirk inadvertently becomes a figure through which broader discussions of mental health, autonomy, and relational dynamics are explored. Social media discussions, think pieces, and commentary threads increasingly focus not just on the scandal itself, but on its implications for understanding power, control, and personal liberation in everyday life. Ultimately, the fallout of KirkKing and QuadWebb's narrative is as much about perception as it is about reality. Insider reports, social media speculation, and public commentary converge to create a complex, layered story in which every move, every word, and every gesture carries amplified significance. Kirk's reclaiming of agency, Quad's strategic ambiguity, and the interplay of media scrutiny, legal considerations, and personal priorities create a high-stakes environment where the narrative is never static. Audiences are left to interpret, speculate, and debate, ensuring that the story remains both captivating and unpredictable. The narrative tension reaches its peak. KirkKing's liberation is not simply a personal triumph, it is a catalyst for discussion, speculation, and reflection on relational dynamics, power structures, and public perception. QuadWebb's measured responses, combined with leaked insights and media interpretations, ensure that the fallout is ongoing, with potential legal, financial, and social consequences still to emerge. The story's evolution is far from complete, leaving audiences poised for the next chapter, eagerly awaiting revelations, strategic maneuvers, and dramatic developments that could reshape the narrative once again. So, what does all of this really mean? KirkKing finally reclaiming his happiness, QuadWebb quietly admitting her biggest regret. It's not just another reality TV headline. It's a story of survival, of hidden power struggles, and of the quiet battles we rarely see behind closed doors. And here's the kicker, the social media frenzy, the memes, the heated discussions, they're just scratching the surface. The real drama? The emotional stakes, the strategy, the silent resilience that keeps the audience glued and guessing. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Did Kirk finally take control, or is this just another carefully staged narrative? Does Quad's silence signal regret, strategy, or something even more shocking waiting to unfold? And perhaps the bigger question, how many other stories of hidden tension are playing out right under our noses while we scroll, laugh, and comment? If this saga has you on the edge of your seat, make sure to hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more breaking truths from behind the scenes. Because with Kirk and Quad, the story is never really over, and trust me, you do not want to miss what comes next.